Hey everyone, welcome to Monday's edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams along with Chris King. We have our buddy who joins us from time to time on Mondays, and that's Allie Burns. Allie, and she does the show before us. Now, before I bring Allie on, we are now part of the Max Wagers Network, okay? And so that means all of us are together, which is really, really cool. We start at noon, and we go all the way to 5 o'clock, giving you all the information you could possibly ever need to know, okay? So that's very cool. So without any further ado, the show that brings us all our audience, Allie Burns from Morningwood. Hello, Allie Burns.
What's happening? How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me back.
Anytime, my friend. So what did you do? Well, today I know you don't do your show on Mondays. But if you did do your show on Monday, what would you have talked about?
I tried to do it this morning since now we're the Max Wager Network.
Welcome to everyone.
I know, it's exciting. I tried to do Manic Monday with Lenny, but we need a little bit better. We need a better game plan. It didn't work out, so I left early and let him handle it.
I was saying, then I saw you there, and then I saw you disappear, and then I saw Craig.
Yes, Craig did come in. It was a little wonky.
It was a Manic Monday.
It was incredibly manic, and I wasn't ready for it. I work 6 days a week. You guys know this is my day off, and I wasn't. Well, now I work 7 days a week, so I wasn't planning on doing that show this morning, and Lenny was, and I was like, okay, I'll hop on it, and we'll do this, and then it was a button-pushing issue that we were having, so we're just going to work it out. I'll be there on next Monday. But what I was talking about, I gave out my 3 plays, because Manic Monday is a parlay day. Mm-hmm. You give Lenny 3 teams. They have to all 3 cash, and then you get a bonus pick in tomorrow's last week's standing contest. So my 3, I took Chattanooga, I took Charleston Southern, and I took Wright State all on the money line. So that's what I was talking about over there.
All right.
The good old Mox. You took them over the Furman Paladins.
I did. Well, you know what? I've got a future on Furman and Chattanooga. I have Chattanooga plus 170 to win the tournament, and I've got Furman plus 135 to win the tournament. I hedged that a little bit last night with Samford plus 315, just in case that happened, which it did not. I also had Samford plus the 8.5, which did happen.
Yeah, Samford's a tough team.
Yeah. Oh, I love them. Yeah, 8.5 was too many points, just way too many points. I wanted to ask you guys about the South Dakota State game. I love the Jackrabbits, but 9 points feels like a lot of points. I was thinking maybe it's a crisscross situation. Do you guys have any feelings on that one?
I actually like South Dakota State myself.
-9?
Yeah, just looking at the way they played against them this season, they beat South Dakota by 19 at home. They beat them by 10 on the road. It's tough to stop Eric Henderson's team, and I mean, it's actually the first game I've got in the college basketball breakdown there. But
There's
I mean, you look at South Dakota State.
For you.
The money shot for Allie. There you
can
go.
Stop them. I mean, they lead the nation in effective field goal percentage. They lead the league in 3-point shooting. I mean, that's just a bad combination for anybody. The last time they lost was back in mid-December, and that was to Missouri State, a good team from the Missouri Valley, who I was hoping was going to take care of Drake over. Was it Drake over the weekend?
Yeah, it was.
Remember. There were so many games over the weekend, it was hard to keep track of them all. But I liked Missouri State. And they're the last team that beat South Dakota State, and that was back on December 15th. So, I mean, you look, they're rolling right along, and the Jackrabbits are a very, very disciplined and a very efficient offensive team.
Yeah.
It's going to be a challenge for the Coyotes, I think.
They've always been that way. I got into this team with TJ Otzelberger years back, and they're just, I've told this to the Morning Woodies a million times, they are a pedal-to-the-metal team. They put their foot on the gas, and they don't care how much they're leading by. They're going till the end of the buzzer. You know, they're going to just keep beating you. So I love this team. It's just, that in-state rivalry thing for me gets a little, 9 points is a little bit above my limit, so I just wanted to ask what you thought, but I'm on the same side. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if I can.
The only weird loss that South Dakota State, when you look, they lost to Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Nobody's going to fault you for that. They lost to Washington.
Yeah.
They lost to Missouri State. How the hell did they lose to Idaho?
It
Who
takes
were they
practice.
playing next? Yeah. That would be my question. Who were they playing next?
They played Washington State.
Huh?
They played Washington State after that, beat them.
So maybe a look ahead spot on that.
Sometimes in these games that are, like you said, they're rivalry games. The pedal to the metal standpoint still holds, but there's always that fear that the other side's going to be so jacked up that they're going to keep you at bay, or at least maybe overperform, I guess would be the best way of putting it.
Well, and there you go. There's Tim. Good old Tim Earl saying South Dakota State's going to be the Cinderella story of March Madness.
He put that into our group chat not long ago, and I'm not opposed to it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am not opposed to that at all. I dig the team.
I'll be honest with you. Any team with the nickname Jackrabbits, I'm on board. I'm buying the merch.
Jim did back the Kansas City Roos before they got knocked out.
That's right. I was on them because how can you not? I mean, the Kangaroos. Come on.
Was that yesterday? UMKC?
Yeah, they're part of my all nickname teams.
Oh, I like that. I know that Tim Earl, that was one of his best bets yesterday.
Yeah, they lost yesterday to South Dakota.
Yeah.
Hence the reason South Dakota is now in the tournament against South Dakota State.
Yep. Here we go.
But I mean, like I said, if you just look at the numbers here, second in the country in scoring offense at 87.2 points a game, first in field goal percentage. They shoot almost 57% from two. They shoot 45.1% from three-point range. So you're saying the whole team shoots like Steph Curry from the perimeter. Unless South Dakota State somehow paints the line where it's out of bounds, like something like the Wile E. Coyote would do in the Looney Tunes cartoons, right. I don't know how they're going to defend. And that's the big concern that I have with South Dakota. Like I said, Jackrabbits 4-0 against the spread in their last four against teams with a winning record. They beat South Dakota State both times this season. And South Dakota doesn't really like neutral sites. They're 3-9 against the spread in their last 12 in those situations. 2-6-1 in their last 9 neutral site games as an underdog. I know yesterday they were apparently a 1-point underdog to Kansas City. They managed to pull that one out. This is a whole different ball of wax than playing the Kansas City Roos. I know that, like I said, it's part of Jim's all-name team. But I don't think that
that doesn't mean they're going to win. It just means that they're part of my all-name team.
Yeah, I don't think South Dakota's going to hang with South Dakota State.
Well, there you go. All right, well, it's going to be fun. That money line is pretty amazing.
I actually thought it would be worse considering the way some of these ones go. But
really? Okay. Let's move on. Towson.
This was what I was going to ask you about next, actually, because this line moved a lot. So, yeah, break it on down. Sorry.
Yeah, I know I moved down because I know yesterday, Towson was favored by 6?
Now I think it's a 4.5.
Yeah, that's what it was when I looked this afternoon. It was down to 4.5. But Delaware is a team that has been trending in the wrong direction of late. When you look at the way they went down the stretch, I mean, the Blue Hens lost their last 3 of the regular season, including a 12-point loss at Towson last Monday. They lost by 7 at home. They lost by 12 on the road. I don't get what's going on with Martin Inglesby's team. They played good basketball for a while. Then, of course, there was a loss to Hofstra. There was a loss to Drexel. They lost down the stretch to Charleston and UNC Wilmington at home. Then they lost on the road to Towson. They bounced back and beat Drexel yesterday. But let's face it, it's tough in the second game of back-to-back situations. We've seen that all tournament long, at least in the West Coast Conference, where every team that played the day before and then went in to play a fresh team lost. Hopefully, I'm looking for that trend to carry over here with Delaware. The Blue Hens, they're good offensively. They're 94th in scoring offense. They shoot the ball pretty well. Problem is, Towson's pretty good offensively themselves, and the difference comes on the defensive end of the floor. Towson is 36th in scoring defense at 63.8 points a game. They're 60th in field goal percentage defense at 41.1%. They hold opposing teams to 31.4% from three-point range. Meanwhile, you look at Delaware and the Blue Hens. Let me see. Make sure I don't misquote myself on these numbers because I didn't copy. Yeah, Delaware is just 229th in scoring defense at 70.8. They're middle of the pack when it comes to field goal percentage defense, but they're 301st in three-point percentage defense at 35.7%. Top of that, they get beaten on the glass by an average of over 1.2 boards a game. Towson is very good on the offensive boards. I believe they're 9th in the country when it comes to offensive rebound percentage at 36%. Meanwhile, Delaware, they're just too inconsistent for me. If this was earlier in the season, I'd be all about Delaware. Unfortunately, 1-5 in their last 6 after an ATS win. 0-4 in their last 4 neutral site games as an underdog. Towson 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 after an ATS loss. I like the Tigers. I know the Colonial's not exactly the most exciting conference when you get right down to it, but they're a dangerous team. Should they be able to get in there, I imagine they'll probably be somewhere in that 12 to 13 range in the seeding, because nobody likes to rank mid-majors anywhere near where they should be. But I like Towson in this one. I don't know what you'd make of it, Allie.
I'm just saying I love this Delaware team, but like you said, it was the beginning of the season. I typically like Delaware, but Towson has kind of just really set fire at the right time, and I'm with it. I mean, I'm not mad at them at all.
Well, Towson's tall, and they're deep. And when you get in tournaments, you like, Chris, you were talking about them on the offensive glass. They're very good because they're very good at being efficient. Towson is a very, they're not a fun necessarily team to watch, but they don't make mistakes. They don't beat themselves. And they don't turn the ball over a lot. And they've got experienced guards. And when you come to tournament play, you got to have guards, and Towson's got guards.
So why did the line move then? Why are we losing? That's the only thing that scares me about betting on Towson, is now it almost looks too easy. Do we know why maybe that line moved?
I was just going to say there's a lot of money coming in from President Biden, who's a Delaware alum, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. So they're pushing the blue. I have no idea.
So they got action? No.
Yeah, they got action on it.
I blamed, when it came to some of the NBA lines last week, I blamed Mattress Mac for just throwing bets out at people.
Yeah, my man did that too. He was saying that Rams line would have moved a whole lot differently if they weren't trying to even out the sides of it there.
So.
That's true. And to Nathan's point about if San Diego or South Dakota State has a day of rest, yeah, they played Saturday and beat Nebraska Omaha. So they have a day off. Meanwhile, South Dakota had to play yesterday against Kansas City. So you also have that rest factor working in favor of the Jackrabbits in that one.
I do like that.
So
I put that into a teaser. I just teased that with Furman and Wilmington. I took South Dak minus 4.5 with Furman plus 7 and Wilmington plus 6.5.
Well, there you go.
That's what I did.
Interestingly enough, it's about time to move to the NHL, right, Chris?
Yeah, good old NHL. And we're going to start with everybody's favorite team, the Buffalo Sabres, who
We jumped. Hang on.
Oh, okay, never mind. We're going to talk about...
What the hell?
We're going to talk about the New York Islanders first.
I can't work like this.
I know. It's just crazy.
Well, hey, Bill said that Lenny's power went out for a while, so he put his neck up.
It's super windy in Vegas, and this is part of why I dropped out last week, I think. The wind in Las Vegas gets so intense, and for whatever reason, our internet just stops working when that happens here, so...
And there's Tim with the ever-popular Sabres for the Cup.
Sabres for the Cup!
It's going to be a Dixie Cup. That's going to be about it, because let's face it.
Okay, so I have to tell you guys the story about this, okay? So, Tim Earl and Nick Earl, his brother, and then me and Detroit Lenny, we're all in a group chat. Detroit Lenny and Nick Earl are huge hockey guys, and Tim and I don't care, pretty much, end of the day, right? But they're so into it that Tim and I both put a $1 wager on the Sabres to win the Cup. It's $1 to win like $66 or something. And it's kind of really the best dollar we ever spent, because the only reason we did it was to annoy Nick and Lenny. And we're, through the All-Star break, and it still bothers them. So, Sabres for the Cup all day long. And, Bill, I did read your message. But I got to talk to Lenny about that. It's a $1 bet that we made just to annoy Lenny and Nick, and it's totally working, and so we go, Sabres for the Cup! and that's just our jam.
Couldn't you just burned $1 in front of them and aggravated them just as easily?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, we get to talk about how the Sabres are going to win the cup, and every time they win a game, we're like, told you they're coming for that cup. See, Tim Earl, best dollar I ever spent. Yeah, so it's kind of just a joke that we had going on, but okay, go ahead. You talk real.
God, I lived in Western New York for more than half my life, and nobody up there would ever say Sabres for the cup. When you talk about the Sabres, you hear about three things. You hear about no goal from the 99 finals. You hear about Dominic Hasek choking out Jim Kelly, the hockey writer. And you hear about, well, we're not going to make the playoffs again. And that's about it.
Well,
and the goat head, because people used to talk about those.
There was at no point in this bet-making decision that we thought the Sabres would win the cup. That was never, like, part of our reason for throwing this dollar down. It was only to annoy Nick and Lenny. So if you ask me, we've already cashed that bet, Tim. We cashed that bet months ago.
I would have just burned it. It would have been just as useful.
They kept telling us just to send them our dollar. And we're like, no. There's Nick Earl right there, Earl Sports Bets.
Yep, but in this one, I like the Avs. They just beat the Islanders in Denver last week, 5-3. The Islanders are, well, Jim, you can sum them up. They're not very good.
That would be my, yes, that would be my summation of the Isles. Not good. Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz is a defensive-minded coach. His problem is he doesn't have offense. So defense works. They won the other night 2-1, and that was painful.
That's not the only way they win.
That was painful.
And in this one, it's going to be the battle of the backups. Basically, it's Pavel Frank, who's 9-3-1 with a 233 goals against, a 923 save percentage, and 2 shutouts against former Avalanche goaltender Semyon Varlamov, who's doing his best Yaroslav Halak impression by playing bad hockey but still getting a paycheck. He's 3-11-0 with a 276 goals against and a 912 save percentage. Islanders just having all kinds of issues. Colorado second in the league in goals per game at 391. The Islanders are 24th at 2.54. Colorado is 4-0 in their last 4 against the Metropolitan Division. They're 49-10 in their last 59 against teams with a losing record. And they're probably pissed off because they've lost 2 in a row. Of course, they had that disappointing loss to Arizona and followed that up with a 4-3 overtime loss to Calgary over the weekend. They don't lose 3 in a row very often. They're 9-2 in their last 11 on the road. The Islanders 3-13 in their last 16 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. They're 1-8 in their last 9 as a home underdog, and they're 0-7 in their last 7 following a win. So, to quote Lou Brown, we won today. If we win tomorrow, that's 2 in a row. That's called a winning streak. The Islanders don't know what those are. I'm not looking for that to change tonight.
You know, the one thing that we've talked about, Allie, about Colorado is they play down to their opponents. Mm-hmm. And even though the Islanders have been less than fantastic, to be sure, Colorado should, what is it, 1 point? Yeah, Colorado should win this game. Again, the Islanders, they're playing defense like Trotz wants them to, but they can't buy a goal, literally.
And even if you play defense, they still gave up 5 to Colorado last week.
I'm betting
they gave up 43 shots in that game. So, and now you've got Varlamov instead of Sorokin in there trying to stand on his head, and Varlamov has been banned.
Yeah. One last thing, I'm looking for the Islanders to be sellers at the trade deadline. So there's that.
You think Lou Lamoriello is going to sell?
Yep, I do.
Does he have anything anybody wants?
That's another question for another time, my friend.
Because they're not going to move Barzal or anybody like that.
I'll tell you this. You heard it here first. The Capitals are after Marc-Andre Fleury of the Chicago Blackhawks.
The Capitals would be after Pelle Lindbergh if they could get him.
They would, but they're going after Marc-Andre Fleury, so there you go. All right, so it's time to be moving. Now this time, let's see if it works. A button that works, thank God.
Now, see, I don't know what Washington would give up to get Fleury at this point. I mean, obviously that means they're not sold on Vanacek and
Fleury's a rental.
Samsonov. Well, I know he's a rental, but you're still going to have to give something up for him.
Not that much.
You don't think so?
No. I don't think so.
Well, Sly says the Capitals just want to stick it to the Penguins, and that's why they're interested in Fleury.
That might be the case, but they're happy with the goalkeeping they got. They just want some backup who's got some experience in the playoffs, and very few people have more experience as a goalkeeper in the playoffs than Marc-Andre Fleury.
True.
So, meanwhile,
Tim's saying the Sabres are going to win tonight. I hope Tim's just joking, and it's.
Well, he saw Allie's Sabres win the cup, and so he jumped on board.
It's our thing. He's got the other dollar. Yeah.
You know what, Allie? You never know what happens. Stranger things have happened.
Well, like they say, a broken clock is right twice a day.
That's right. So there you go.
Again, never thought the Sabres would win the cup.
There you
Just
go.
wanted to annoy Nick and Lenny.
Mission accomplished, right?
I wouldn't go up and say the Sabres are going to win a game most nights, but, especially against Florida, the Panthers obviously...
We have cashed on the Sabres money line quite a few times, and it's always that good value. So if you pick your spots, you can make some money with the Sabres. I'm not sure this is the spot, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Are they playing Sunrise?
And Tim's taking credit saying he started Sabres for the Cup, so now you're going to have to battle for that.
No, he did. He was the one who took the bet, and I said, I'm tailing. They're going to hate this. This was his idea. I tailed him.
But, the Sabres, don't forget they're playing a second game back-to-back. They lost yesterday 3-0 to the Kings. Now they have to face a Florida team that, let's face it, is very good at putting on that little red light behind the net of opposing goaltenders. Panthers 37-13-5, Sabres 18-31-8. Their two-game win streak out the window with that loss yesterday. It'll be Spencer Knight. Look at that, Jim. Bobrovsky got a night off.
Yeah, he did.
I guess when you're playing the Sabres, you could put him in there and it still would have been a night off. But he's 9-6-2 with a 322 goals against an 898 save percentage. It's supposed to be Craig Anderson, the 73-year-old goaltender. He's 8-7 with a 294 goals against and a 907 save percentage.
That 294 would be a good earned run average. But.
True. And like Sly said, the Panthers are a good over team, probably because they have their own issues defensively. They beat Detroit 6-2 Saturday night. Mm-hmm. That was a game where Lenny said he was not going to touch the Red Wings. He didn't touch them on Friday night in the loss to Tampa Bay either. I tried to get him to put him into a corner on that, and he backed away, kind of like a scared cat. He didn't want to touch that game at all. Even with Brian Elliott and that Tampa Bay won 3-1. But Florida leads the league in goals per game at 4.09. They're middle of the pack in goals against at 291. Buffalo 24th in goals per game at 265. They're 27th in goals against at 3.54. Buffalo, they've had, I think 6 goaltenders this season. None of them have been any good.
More than a few.
More than a few, less than a million, but none of them can stop the puck to save their lives. Florida 5-0 in their last 5 when their opponent scores 2 or less. 4-0 in their last 4 against the Atlantic. 5-1 in their last 6 as a road favorite. And then we get some really ugly numbers. Sabres 10-46 in their last 56 after losing by at least 3 goals. 13-41 in their last 54 when their opponent gives up 2 or less. And 6-20 in their last 26 after a home loss by at least 3 goals. You didn't score on the Kings. Now you got to face the Panthers, who like to score. And, this could be a 6-2, 7-3 type of game because Florida doesn't like to play defense, but boy, they'll run 4 lines at you in a hurry.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Hey, let's pay some bills for a minute, okay? And let's start with our buddies at BetMGM. You have to take advantage of their BetMGM NBA promotion. First-time users of the BetMGM app deposit and place a bet of $10 on any NBA game, and you get $200 if either team hits a three-pointer. Okay? All the information on how to take advantage of that fun contest that BetMGM's put out there is in our show box below, so be sure to check it out. Okay? All right. So from here, we go to the association, where tonight we will start things off with the Sixers and the Bulls. Now, this should be a good game.
Yeah, it's coming to you from the Wells Fargo Center, where it's all of a sudden Philadelphia decided that they could play basketball there because they haven't been all that great at home this season, but they're facing the Bulls, I think, at the right time. Chicago's lost 4 in a row. They come in off a loss to Milwaukee on Friday night in the second game of back-to-back after they lost to Atlanta on Thursday. Then they get to face a Philadelphia team that has played well since acquiring James Harden. Whether that pans out in the playoffs remains to be seen. But as of right now, they're a half game ahead of Chicago for second place in the East. Of course, behind Eric Spoelstra and the Heat, who continue to win games despite having seemingly half their roster missing. Philadelphia 19th in scoring offense at 108.3, but that's gone up since Harden's been there. I guess when you get to the free throw line 805 times a game, like we saw against the Knicks and things like that, you get the opportunity to get a bunch of free points. The Bulls 18th in scoring defense at 110.9. They're 23rd in field goal percentage defense at 46.7%. They don't defend the three well. So Chicago's trying to rely on their offense. They're 9th in the league at 112.5 points per game. They lead the league in field goal percentage, so there's that at 48.4%, and they shoot the ball well from outside. But they're facing a Philadelphia team that's good defensively. 76ers are 6th in scoring defense at 106.1 points a game. 10th in field goal percentage defense. They're 4th in three-point defense. When I looked at the injury report earlier, I saw Nikola Vucevic was questionable. That could be a major blow for the Bulls if he can't take the floor. It's bad enough that you got to try to defend Joel Embiid in the paint. If Vucevic doesn't play, it'll be that much more of a challenge for them because, let's face it, their backup bigs are not anything to write home about. Just going to check and see if anything's changed on that. Let's see.
Philadelphia. Harden has seemingly found, a nice little home there in Philadelphia. It's a
for now.
Well, yeah, for now. But that's all we can judge him on is for now. We can't judge him on something that hasn't happened yet. But we'll see. I mean, I've been bullish on the 76ers. Speaking of bullish, Billy Donovan felt badly because the Bulls are a better team than they've been playing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think once they get healthy, they'll be in a lot better shape. I mean, I think they're missing right now. They're missing Lonzo Ball. They're missing Caruso still. Patrick Williams hasn't played since October. If those guys come back before the regular season's over, they'll be in good shape. I think they're targeting Ball and Caruso to come back sometime in late March. But in this case, you've got a Philadelphia team that's actually healthy. Mm-hmm. And that makes them even more dangerous because it's not like they're missing pieces like they've been for stretches earlier this year.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move it on. And it's the Nuggets and the Warriors. Talking about three, this should be good for anybody wishing to take advantage of that BetMGM deal that we just talked about.
Well, but the issue here, Jim, is that Golden State's going to be minus seemingly half their team.
Uh-oh.
They're not going to have Curry. Thompson's not playing. Draymond Green, all those guys are still back in San Francisco because they decided that they weren't even going to bring them on the trip for this game. Iguodala is out. Andrew Wiggins isn't going to play. Gary Payton is supposedly out. Wiseman is still working his way back. Now, I know Denver played yesterday. I know they had that ridiculous game where they had to rally and get past New Orleans in a game where they were behind in the final seconds of regulation before forcing overtime. But I don't know, Allie, what do you make of a Golden State team that's minus seemingly everybody?
Well, I saw this. Actually, Craig Trapp had a free pick on this one this morning, and I kind of just defer to him when it comes to NBA. I know he also liked the Bulls plus the 7 today. I don't know if I need to get involved with that, but as far as the Warriors game goes, he liked it under. He felt like they've got to kind of get back to, whatever they've been doing, it's not been playing defense, the Warriors. And so they've got to kind of hone back in on that defense. So that is the way Craig took it, was Warriors going under. I know Tim Earl has been all over Jokic for pretty much the whole season. He's been playing Jokic triple-doubles. I don't see that not happening. I don't want to say not happening tonight, but I think there's a good chance of that happening tonight because of, A, the lack of defense, and B, the lack of star power that's going to be on the floor. Tim, what's the juice on that? What are we looking at here? Let me get down. It's happening.
Yeah, to your point about the Warriors not playing defense, that's an accurate point. The over is 7-1-1 in their last 9 games coming into this one. You look at, they gave up 124 to the Lakers the other night, 122 to the Mavs, 129 to Minnesota, 119 to the Clippers, 115 to the Lakers back in February, 116 to the Knicks. I mean, this is not the way Golden State was playing defense earlier in the season when they were number 1 or number 2 in the league in scoring defense. And like you said, missing all these pieces isn't going to make it a whole lot better. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here, but it's not looking good for Golden State at this point.
Well, it's not looking good for the moment, but I'm still thinking they're going to skate into the playoffs.
Well, yeah, I mean they're second in the West. I mean that's not going to change too much.
No. As we get ready here for part 2 of our 2 for the money, 4 for the show, and the rest of it, let me ask Chris, you and Allie a question. We've got the major conference tournaments coming up. What are the ones that you're excited to watch?
Go ahead, Allie. I'll let you go first.
I'm always excited about the ACC. That's always my jam. I threw $1 on Virginia Tech at plus 1,100, I think it was, just because sometimes I like to do that. So it was Nick Earl was looking at that one. So sometimes if it's good value, I'll just throw $1 on it, just to have some action. But I'm always excited about the ACC. Big time tonight with Cleveland playing Wright and Purdue-Fort Wayne playing Northern Kentucky. I'm excited about both of these games. So really into that one. And then who else am I into? I'm kind of oversaturated with basketball right now. Not in a bad way, but it's hard for me to come up off the top of my head with some things because there's so many things going through my head all day long, I feel like.
You know what? We got to say goodbye to Coach K from Cameron on Saturday. And, it was weird because the final, I think Duke had really, extended themselves so much in the first, 2/3 of that game that last 10 minutes was just, they didn't have anything to do anymore. They were spent. I don't think North Carolina is going to do that to them in the tournament. I think that was, we had an emotional moment. We ran out of, we were exhausted. We couldn't play anymore. That happens when you get in games like that, where everything is so front loaded at the beginning, where everybody's excited and jumping up and down and going crazy, that by the time you get to that, you hit that wall with about 5 or 10 minutes left to go. And when they did, Carolina was right there.
I think, looking back on, I always say handicap, you're handicapping. If you get something wrong, why did you get it wrong? And just, it was so many points, first of all. It was just way too many points for that type of a rivalry game. And then, like you said, the emotion involved. I mean, these guys, what was it, 91 former Duke players? 71 former Duke. I mean, the immense pressure of it's K's last game, it's K's senior night, and you've got all of these, Duke gods of basketball watching you, and now you add that to a UNC team that just got embarrassed on their home court in their last shot against K. I mean, that was a take the points with UNC play all day long. It was too many points. The
other, to your point on that, Cameron only seats 9,000 people. Okay.
Right.
So it's a little place to begin with. The ticket prices for a ticket there
are ridiculous.
The only sporting event to rival that kind of price for that ticket was World Cup.
Wow, really?
So it was upwards of $10,000-$15,000 for a ticket at Cameron for that game.
I saw 3,000 to 5,000, but that could have gone up also. I saw it a little earlier.
It's like the money line; everything moves up.
Right, yeah.
But
value changes, supply and demand.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the kind of intensity, and like you say, when you get think you're a Duke player, right? You're a 17, 18-year-old kid. And every kid that you've, as growing up, every reason you went to Duke, they're sitting in the stands. And you've got to represent for them. And it's the last home game for the coach. No pressure.
Yeah. I was in tears. 9 a.m. college game day starts. I'm crying through the Dick Vitale thing, through his letter to them. I donate to the V Foundation every year just because of Dick Vitale, and Jimmy V and all this. And it was like I was 11 years old again, and seeing Leitner, and I was so nostalgic and beautiful, and I was in tears for most of it. But the morning part, not the evening. I didn't mind the loss, and we've talked about this on the show before. Mm-hmm. I kind of like it when my team loses right before heading into a tournament. I think it's good you get that taste of defeat in your mouth before you now enter into the conference champs and the dance, which is...
Don't tell that to South Dakota State.
Well, that's fair. But they're not a Duke. Duke is I call it I don't want to say those words on your show, but it's a trip over your own junk situation, right? You think you're big, you think you're powerful, nothing can go wrong for you. So if they would have beat UNC there and then roll into the conference tournament, there's a different mentality they're going to have rather than, we just got beat, we let our coach down, blah, 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 blah. There's a whole other motivation and firepower in that Duke team with the loss than there would have been with the win. So I don't mind the loss. It's unfortunate. But can I just say that the beauty of that game is the rivalry. And so I kind of also like that it ended 1-1. That we got them and they got theirs. And I kind of like that for to put a bow on it, that they got theirs against us too.
Well, it's very possible to see each other again in the tournament.
Yeah, roll up on us.
So there's that. All right, well, let's go for two for the money. Ready, Chris?
Sure.
All right.
I think they're ones we talked about already, but, it never hurts to talk about them again. Like I said, I know that Craig said, Craig's on the Bulls. As much as my son likes the Bulls and everything else, but they play bad basketball of late. Let's face it, they blown leads. They blew a lead against Atlanta. They blew a lead against Milwaukee. They're 0-4 in their last four. I'm worried about Vucevic not playing. That'll be a major factor. And it's tough to stop Philadelphia the way they're designed right now anyway. Trying to slow them down without your best big man. Patrick, you did say the Pistons were going to beat the Pacers. You also said that was going to go over, so I guess that means that you're still a bozo too because it stayed under. Anyway, South Dakota State over South Dakota. We talked about this one, Allie. I know you're big on South Dakota State going back, like you said, to Otzelberger and the Dominator and everything else. I just think South Dakota State, the way they shoot from the outside, it's going to be too much for South Dakota to handle in this one.
I put it in a tease, so it was acceptable for my personal numbers to take it.
So what, I go down to 4 or 4.5? 4.5.
Yeah,
okay.
I've got Jack Rabbits minus 4.5.
I knew it was somewhere in that range. Yeah. But I can see that being favorable. And then we said Colorado and the Islanders and Florida and Buffalo. I know everybody likes, teams like the Islanders because they play good defense. And people, Buffalo, I will say this. Buffalo's got a lot of good young talent. Unfortunately, when you have good young talent against established talent, sometimes it doesn't go your way. Now, Buffalo will get better. I'm not saying they're going to, make the playoffs anytime soon. But at least there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Whether that light is an oncoming train or not for the 12th straight season next year remains to be seen. But they seem to actually have things going in the right direction with Kevin Adams and Don Granato as the GM coach combination there. So they haven't had in probably 2 decades. But tonight, I'm still going with Florida.
4 for the show.
All right. We talked about the Nuggets. Now, Allie will never touch the third game because of the fact that number is ridiculous. But
y'all lost it. Y'all lost your mind. No, I'm just kidding.
Here's the fun thing about the Rockets. They won yesterday over Memphis. They're 0-10 in the second game of back-to-backs, getting outscored by almost 16 points a game. On top of that, they have to go on the road. Injury report says Eric Gordon won't play. Dennis Schroeder is questionable. I don't know who the Rockets have in their backcourt beyond those guys, other than Jalen Suggs or Kevin Porter Jr. I just can't trust a Houston team that has, what do they have to, 16 wins now? 16 and 48. And I guess the big news, Jim, from what I've heard from you and others, is Victor Oladipo is going to make his return tonight.
He is.
You have anything to say about that?
Yeah, he is. Miami's starting to get healthy, which is good for them at this point in time. The word is, at least this morning, was that he was going to play. We'll see.
Yeah, I know Lowry is questionable. He's been gone for a couple of games for personal reasons. Caleb Martin is questionable, but I just think Miami, they've still got Adebayo, they've still got Jimmy Butler.
I'll say this: I don't think Eric's going to play him a long time. I think
Oladipo.
Yeah, if he plays him, he'll play him spot.
Yeah,
I don't expect to see him playing, for any appreciable minutes.
Yeah, well, unless they're going to get a chance to work him in.
Yeah,
heading towards the playoffs.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I wouldn't expect to see a lot of him tonight.
And that's a good point, because I see it a lot on the Morning Wood show where, so-and-so is back. I'm on this game. And it's like, but so-and-so might be on limited minutes.
Right.
So-and-so has been sitting for a week or a month or however long, and they're probably not going to just come back in it, but they're not going to Klay Thompson us, where we haven't seen you in months, in a year or whatever, and then you just come in and light it up. It's just something to remember. Good point, Jim.
It's kind of...
But look at Oladipo, they're not expecting anything from him because he hasn't played, he barely played for them last season after he got acquired.
But
with Butler and Adebayo and those guys, you still have your stars that you can rely on. Mm-hmm. Houston doesn't really have that.
Well, he's going to be on the NBA version of a pitch count. I don't know what that's going to be, but Eric Spoelstra will give him something. He says, "This is
maybe 15 minutes, something like that."
Oh, I wasn't even going to think that far, but maybe if they're spread out, maybe.
Okay, so we'll say 12.
All right, fine. Sounds good to me. He'll probably play into triple overtime or something.
Yeah, watch. He'll play like 38 minutes or something like that, and score 47 points. And I'll be all like, yeah. And I like the Flames over the Oilers. You always got to love the Battle of Alberta. Edmonton, they played better under Woodcroft. I just don't know about them in this contest against Flames. Jacob Markstrom and Calgary have been great all season. And Edmonton, they still need to find a goaltender. Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen not getting it done. We just watched Edmonton lose over the weekend to Montreal, 5-2. And it's tough. It's tough for Edmonton to go on the road in this one against the Calgary team that's been playing very good hockey the last few months.
For sure. Let's go for the shot in the dark or the menu.
Let's see. Yeah, I like Charleston over UNC Wilmington. It's going to be a tight game, but I like the way UNC Wilmington. We talked about it last month. We figured they're due for regression. Because they shoot the ball terribly when you look at the numbers. And I think that Charleston should get the better of them here. I'm just going to take a look and see what they did in the first two meetings of the season. Let's see. Charleston.
I took Charleston. I know Hicks took Charleston. Craig Trapp took Charleston, but he's what's his name, Pat Kelsey guy. He's really into that. Him.
Yeah, Pat Kelsey,
Kelsey, there it is. He used to play football against him. But I have, Charleston Southern is one of my big picks for today also, so if you're into it. But I also have Wilmington in a tease where I'm getting 6.5 points.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you got to win the line was 2 then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I know it's bounced around between 1 and 1.5 to 2 and all the way back around, so.
Yeah, I see it at 2 now.
Is it back to 2?
This is the best Cleveland State team, by the way, since Kevin Mackey was coaching Cleveland State.
I have a future on them to win the conference.
Yeah, I like Cleveland State. They started as a 1-point favorite now. Last I looked, they were a 1-point underdog, which is weird. But it's tough when you get some of these teams on the horizon because you never know who's going to show up for Wright State because one day they'll play good basketball, the next day they'll play horrible.
Well, I do have right in one of my teaser or my parlay today too, so I've got a lot of action, and it's all kind of jumbled together because I'm an arbitrager, so everyone's doing something against everyone else, and then I'm trying to hedge it every way that I can hedge that also. So
so hedging your bets a little bit.
I'll end up just breaking even.
Well, it's better to be in the hole, right?
Yeah, I call it the round trip. Like when you have it. That was my Super Bowl. I mean, I had 15 prop bets. I had all these side bets, all this action on the Super Bowl, and at the end of the day, I made the round trip. I made $1. $1.
Hey, it's one more than you had originally, right?
Thank you very much. Huh?
It's one more than you had originally.
It is, and that's the name of the game, right? Beat the book. I got my book. I'm all right.
I don't know, did you have anything with Georgia State and Louisiana in the Sun Belt, Allie?
Yesterday I had Georgia State. They were in my something. They were in a teaser with me. It was I did a Sean Higgs teaser. Sean Higgs has been on fire over at Picks and Parlays. He's been on fire, so I took 3 of his plays. I've hit 4 of my 5 last teasers. I had three teamers I hit a 5-teamer, and then I missed a 3-teamer the other day. So I've been doing really well with my teases, but last night I made a Sean Higgs tease, and that was one of them that I cashed in. So yeah, thank you, Sean Higgs.
Yeah, I like Georgia State. They've been on a roll of late. They beat App State yesterday. They beat Arkansas State the day before. Interesting thing about Georgia State, their coach, Rob Lanier, the son of former NBA Hall of Famer Bob Lanier. He was out of head coaching job for a long time. He coached at Siena back in the early 2000s, and then he caught on with Georgia State in 2020. He's turned that team around, put some good seasons together. I hope that Georgia State wins. I mean, I like what they've done. They play good basketball. Louisiana, for all the great years they've had the last few years, they just kind of fell off this season, and I don't look for them to pan out here. And like you said, as much as I like Furman because it's down here and everything, and Bob Ritchie's trying to get the Paladins in the tournament for the first time since, I think, 1980 or 81. I just think Chattanooga's got a little too much firepower in that one. I feel bad for Furman, but, they did it to themselves by blowing some games down the stretch against teams they should have beaten. And that's why they're not the number 1 seed and everything else. I mean, they lost to Samford in late February. They had a 3-game losing streak in early February where they lost to Greensboro and East Tennessee State and Chattanooga. So the Mocs have beaten them twice. They were both close games. They won by 2 the first time. The Mocs won by 6 in the second one. I think expect another tight game, but I think the Mocs will win, just like you were saying before, Allie.
Well, I got them both ways, and then I kind of like Furman plus the 7, but I don't know. I mean, Chattanooga just goes so insane. When they get going, they get going. But Furman had a close loss yesterday, whereas Chattanooga blew them out of the water. So I feel like the public thinks that Chattanooga flies away with it, but Furman could have a little something left in their tank because this is kind of that last shot for them. And it's like with that closer win compared to a blowout win, that makes me a little funky, So I think 7 is probably too many points. I think Chattanooga minus the 2.5 is good, but I like Furman in the tees.
Yeah, Ken Palm has it as a 1-point game. Chattanooga 72-71 off their predictions. So I think it's going to be, like I said, the first 2 games were decided by 2 and 6. Yeah. So I think you're in good shape with getting the 7 on the tees in that one.
Yes, sir.
In the NBA, I'm going to go with Sacramento over the Knicks. I know the Knicks beat the Clippers yesterday. Thanks for not showing up, Clippers. Everybody talked about how they were on a win streak, and all of a sudden they were back. But apparently not, because they got waxed by a Knicks team that is awful. Knicks playing the second game of back-to-back. I don't like their chances here. I'm going to go with in a tribute to Lenny, I'm going to take the Pistons plus 7.5 at home over the Hawks. I know that it's strange, but the weird thing is both these teams have won 5 out of 7 coming into this one. Not a lot of big injuries. Kevin Huerter is questionable with a shoulder injury for the Hawks. It's good for Atlanta. They got John Collins back with Trae Young, gives them that inside-outside combination. The question is, can the Hawks play defense? And they've made bad offenses look good lately, and I think Detroit can hang around. They hung around. They beat Indiana. They They've beaten Boston, of late. It's just a strange time to be a basketball fan when you see some of these games, the way they turn out. And speaking of weird games, Portland plus 15 at Minnesota. They played the other day. It was a 12-point game in favor of the Timberwolves because neither team wanted to play defense. It's going to be another interesting game tonight. The injury report has a whole slew of guys listed. Anthony Edwards doubtful for the Timberwolves. Pat Beverly questionable. Taurean Prince questionable. D'Angelo Russell questionable. Naz Reid questionable. Those are all from Minnesota. Meanwhile, for Portland, Eric Bledsoe has been ruled out. Apparently, of course, we know Lillard and Joe Ingles are both out. That's not a surprise. Yusuf Nurkic is out with plantar fasciitis. And Anthony Simons is supposed to be a game-time decision with a quad contusion. Hopefully he plays, because otherwise I don't know who's going to score for Portland. But with so many question marks, it's hard to give that many points in a game like this. I'm going to take Portland getting 15 points. I think that's a very big number for a Minnesota team that has issues defensively. Allie, I don't know if that's a game you would jump on and tease up to even more points or not.
It's literally the first thing I thought of when you said 15 points. Well, I can tease that puppy up to almost 20. So I like this T-Wolves team. Portland's probably my favorite basketball team. Portland and Houston I lived in Portland. I'm from Houston. So that's I want Portland to do well. It's been a rough go of it this season, especially losing McCollum. But I caught them in some spots where everyone was on the other side, and I grabbed them with a bunch of points and cashed. I'm just going to lay off of that personally because I like this Timberwolves squad, and I've cashed on them a bunch too. So
yeah, I'm just worried about all the injuries.
Yeah,
that's a horrible list. Tyrone said Simons is out for Portland, so that's just going to make it even more entertaining to watch all the guys that probably they're going to pick up from the local beer league and play tonight. Jim, are you available? You scored two on the Otis Burns song.
Yeah, but that was a few weeks ago. Years. It's funny when I looked at plus 15. I'm thinking, is Minnesota even showing up? I mean, I don't know. It's
a big number.
Let's move on to the Maple Leafs and the Bruins.
I think that was going to go over the total. I know it's 7, and some books have it at 6.5, some have it at 7. Toronto can't get goaltending right now. It's nauseating to watch as a Leafs fan, watching Jack Campbell and Peter Mrazek constantly get beaten ridiculously. Happened again the other night against Vancouver. They go up 3 in the third period to lose 6-4. Columbus, they have a tough time keeping the puck out of their own net as well. So I think this one's going to be one of those games where you see a ton of offense and not a lot of defense. So I look for that to go over. I don't know what Tim might have thought about it, because I know that from what Lenny said, they like totals and things like that a lot too. Then I like the Kings over the Bruins. The Kings, they beat Buffalo yesterday. They're going to have Jonathan Quick in net tonight, I believe, against Linus Ullmark for the Bruins. But it comes down to the fact that, the Kings want revenge after getting smashed 7-0 last week at home by Boston in a game where I thought Los Angeles was going to win, and then promptly decided not to show up. I think the Kings will come out and play good hockey here. I also think that game's going to stay under 6. I think it's going to be a 3-2 type of game. Both teams are pretty good defensively.
If Jonathan Quick is playing, then that's definitely a good sign for the Kings.
Yeah, well, Cal Peterson looked good yesterday for Los Angeles, but I just think it's going to be a competitive game. It's going to be a 3-2, like I said, 3-2 type of game. I don't think we're going to see a 7-0 game like we saw before.
Doubtful.
At least I hope not, because that game was just terrible to watch.
Okay, gang. Some final thoughts here on today. Some of the things that you like, that you'd like to share with the class.
You want to go first, Allie? You're the road team, so to speak.
That's fair.
She's got basketballs behind her, so there you go.
That's true.
Like I said, I've got my 3-team parlay going. I put it on TikTok also, and that is Chattanooga, Wright, and Charleston Southern all on the money line in a 3-team parlay. And then I have my 3-team teas, which is South Dak State, Furman, and Wilmington. So that's teasing South Dak down and the other 2 up. So that's kind of what I'm rolling with. I've been trying to work out the math. I think I found a spot to not lose any money, but I don't want to yell it out to the whole world. I've already bet on it, but like my math skills are escaping me right now, so I'm a little bit stressed out. But maybe after we wrap, I can run this by you grown-ups who probably know how to do math, and we can talk about it real quick.
Chris does. All right, Chris.
I have my spot.
You're up. There you go.
Well, I'm looking to see what pans out in the West Coast Conference tournament. Are we going to see Gonzaga and St. Mary's both win and set up the rubber match between those 2 teams?
A lot of people on St. Mary today.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have it's going to be a good matchup with Santa Clara. The thing that concerns me with San Francisco is nobody's sure about the status of Johan Masalski, who got injured in the game against BYU. He's supposed to be a game-time decision with a knee injury. There's talk that Todd Golden might just sit him down because, and have him healthy for the tournament rather than try and play him tonight. Obviously, the Dons, they're in good shape for an at-large bid after beating BYU Saturday. I think if he doesn't play, you're going to see that line go up a lot higher than what it is. It's still pretty high at 14.5. But yeah, I like St. Mary's too. Granted, Herb Sendek's done a great job with Santa Clara, but Randy Bennett, the Gales, they have a bunch of guys that you've never heard of, but I'll tell you what, they can play some pretty good basketball. And that's going to be an exciting game. Unfortunately, a lot of people will be asleep by the time it's on because it starts at 11:30 Eastern Time. I will be up because I have to wait and see who pans out to win that one to write up the West Coast tournament final.
Well, there you go. Any final questions from the class before we move out of it?
No, but I do want to remind everyone before we go, I've got 3 winners and whiners, guys, on the Picks and Parlays Total Chaos tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
Chris King, who tied with Tim Earl in our last mid-major Total Chaos. Chris King is going to take on Scott and also Scott. That's happening tomorrow. Yes, Scott and
It's a
Chris
handicap match.
Sounds like a law firm. The law firm of King, Scott, and Scott.
I love that. I love that. So they'll be on Total Chaos tomorrow night, breaking down 5 over or unders, 5 basketball games, and telling me if they go over or under. So guys, definitely make sure that you like, subscribe, and then ring the bell for notifications. So that way, when we go live, you'll know about it, and you can jump in and get some of that free pick action.
Well,
so thank you guys for being on the show. I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, I was wondering if you had gotten in touch with, the Scott brothers.
Yes.
Because I hadn't talked to them this weekend, so
yes,
I know they'll be on.
All weekend.
there you go. Well, this is day 1 of the Max Wagers network, and we're having some fun. Okay.
Yes.
Remember that we got the show at noon. We got Allie at 1 o'clock. Morning Wood. We pop up there at 2. Scott and Scott are waiting in the wings at 3 o'clock. And then we go to Lenny and the gang for their show coming up at 5. So, we give you a lot of opportunity to pay attention, to have some fun. I mean,
and make some money.
That's right. If it wasn't fun, we wouldn't be here. And so that, as I look up and see that we're going to come real close to Scott and Scott,
I know, I was like, uh-oh.
We'll be wrapping it up here. But
to quote Rush, it's time to exit stage left.
Exactly. And so we're going to exit stage left. But, gang, have a wonderful day. Be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Come early. Come noon. See Allie at 1. Come over to see us at 2. And Scott at 3. And then Lenny and the gang, at 5. So you got plenty of time to see us and have fun, as Ali said. Maybe even pick up a few bucks on the way. All right? Okay, gang. Until tomorrow. Be well. See you too.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, so what I did was, in the